Trading Addicts, what's up? This is Jeff Kohler, aka The Option Addict, from over at www.tradingaddicts.com. Here to put together a couple quick thoughts in the weekly watch list video. Haven't done one of these in a long time, but have a couple things I just wanted to stress in terms of market analysis, direction, and wanted to draw out the setups just so everybody kind of knew what we're going to be watching this week. So here's where we're at. S&P, we've been talking a lot about the sentiment cycle and how this correction, well, I'm going to use the term correction pretty loosely, was going to be the buy the dip phase in the whole process of the restoring of confidence in stocks. This last 2-week period specifically, when you dial down the time frame, this is what I want you to look at. And you can see that prices are pretty coiled up here, right? And so this represents all the indecision going on around sequestration and all those things. But you know, the end result is that we've got some really definitive lines in the sand here in terms of continuation or reversal. And so if stocks can move higher and get above the 1525 level, which is kind of what I'm looking for, then we're going on to test the highs. And we haven't really had that blow off top type move quite yet, and I think that, as I've mentioned over the course of the last several months, you know, as we've been way in front of this cycle, that the market probably ends up getting to its peak probably closer into mid-April, you know, maybe even earlier. But this is all healthy consolidation. Like I said, 1525 is going to be that level. We take that out, we're going to continue for the next leg higher. And before we move on to setups, I want to call out just one more chart, and that is copper, because copper had a really interesting move on Friday. But as we look at the consolidation that's gone on there, I'm going to zoom out just a tad. We've been holding support, and for the last several months been in the process of filling up this volume pocket between 350 and 375. So it makes all the sense in the world that the apex of this major consolidation happens to be right between those two price points. So as we zoom into this, again, a breakdown of copper here would be pretty significant, and I think that would ultimately be a game changer. But so long as copper can hold this 350 level and start to turn its way back up, I think we're in pretty good shape. On that note as well, if you look over at crude oil's been doing a very similar setup. Very, very similar structure. You know, if you zoom out on crude oil, a lot of commodities, as a matter of fact, real narrow, tight consolidation. In fact, this is why I'm really actively watching energy stocks. You look at 10-year charts of these things, and they are super, super wound up. So, you know, a little bit lower in crude oil, I think you want to start looking to accumulate a long position, because I think that the next move in energy will be pretty significant. So keep an eye on crude oil as it approaches 88. I think you want to start looking for a potential long position, just based on the fact that it's super easy to manage. So let's look over a couple of individual setups that I like this week. My top pick, favorite trade, favorite setup, favorite story. In fact, I think that this setup will go hand in hand with a market top is Facebook. And this particular pattern, you know, this falling wedge, we've been pretty bullish on this type of setup in the last year. This has been a very prominent pattern, has shown up everywhere, and Facebook confirmed that. We actually bought the low of this and made a nice little pot of money Thursday into Friday, but then have multiple trades on for Facebook right now into this breakout. So I look at the bigger picture of this chart, and on every time frame this is looking more and more bullish to me. You've got what looks to be that kind of inverse head and shoulder pattern, neckline setting up right at about 32, and a nice little volume as we've come out of this range, which I think short term you head for 32. But once we get above that, you know, Facebook has a significant volume pocket which goes all the way to the IPO price of 38. And I just think what a perfect headline for the market to finally top in a couple of months would be, you know, Facebook getting back to its IPO price. So going forward, I'd be looking for opportunities to buy dips in Facebook. The other setup we were talking about a lot on Friday was Yelp, because Yelp had a very nice consolidation pattern that it broke out of. Missed a fill on this. If I get a little bit of weakness, I'm going to try to buy this in closer to 22.5. But you'll notice that a lot of fast sell-offs have all occurred in the middle of this price range, real fast movements, which has left a pretty nice volume pocket on up to about 25.5, 26. So this breakout will have legs. So I would just look for opportunities to buy down, hopefully closer to 22.5 if we get it. A couple other setups that I like. ServiceNow, NOW, which has been coiling up for the last little piece. A break above here would further develop this, what looks to be our rounded bottom pattern. So I like this as an action point. I think that becomes really easy to manage. Chipotle, which you also happen to take a position in on Friday, but I'd look to add to this into strength, as I think it's going to break out. Once it closes above that 200-day moving average, I think it really starts to take off a little bit. Also, keep an eye on ROVI, R-O-V-I, and I'll bring out the volume pocket, which I am really dialed into that form of analysis this year in particular, because I think that's going to be something that works really, really well. But as individual stocks and their charts start to repair themselves, like a stock like ROVI, you can see through here, hasn't traded a whole lot of volume between these two parameters, $18 per share and up at about 20.5. So if ROVI can break up into this space, it should be a pretty fast move up to that price target. So I'm going to look to take a long position into strength this week. A couple others that I'm following are XONE, just because with most IPOs what they do is it takes about a month, after they initially debut, and then they'll coil up and consolidate like this. But I think when this stock trades up above 27.5, you're probably going to get a nice day where it runs a buck or two. And I think that might be setting up this week, if not the next. So I'd keep an eye on that. And then last but not least, Monster Energy. Love the way that this thing's coiling up here as well. Now these are just my top 10 favorites. I've also printed the small caps and the remainder of the setups that we'll be watching for option trades this week on the website. So for that, please visit me at www.tradingaddicts.com. This has been The Option Addict. That's been my watch list. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome week.
This is pretty much the worst video ever made.